JZ? LS? Or a motor that's better than both of them combined.
Welcome to Mastering Every Turn, where my goal is to turn my BMW E36 into a multi-motorsport machine. I plan on competing in drifting, rally events, hill climb racing, drag racing, and much more, all with this one car. And to keep up with the competition, we need a reliable, powerful, and most importantly, budget-friendly engine. Now when it comes to a powerful engine, there is one engine in specific that has a huge aftermarket support for it to allow it to make tons of power, and that engine is the Toyota 2JZ. Now, due to their ability to make power and doing it reliably, 2JZ has become one of the most profound inline sixes that people swap in other cars. I mean, hell, people swap them into E36s. Donut swapped one into their E36. People have put them in third-gen Camaros. People have put them in old rat rods. Heck, people have even put them in Miatas, although it does barely fit, it seems. Now you might be asking, if a 2JZ is so reliable and it is so powerful, why are we not putting in an E36? And the answer for that is because it is not budget friendly. So as returning viewers may know, the idea of this build was to do it with budget in mind so that many of you guys can actually come and build your own race car, something similar spec to this, not some crazy super high-end car. And then on top of that, with your budget race car, you can go race in multiple different forms of motorsport and maybe even come race with me out on track one day. Now over the years, 2JZs have skyrocketed in price, mainly due to the fact that, again, they are so reliable, they are so powerful, but also there are so many different swap kits available to put a 2JZ in whatever car you have. Now on top of that, some of you watching may have never done a motor swap before. There is a lot more than just buying the engine that goes into putting a different motor into a different chassis. You have to purchase things like engine mounts, transmission bell housing adapters, wiring harness adapters, just to get one of these engines in there, let alone even running. So due to all that, we are not going to be putting a 2J in the E36. Let's move on to the next popular engine swap option. Now for arguably the most popular engine swap ever in all of time, the LS swap. Now the LS engines, because there were so many of them made over the years, they are known for being the cheap engine swap. Now it is still super expensive with accessories, no different than a 2J or any other engine, to put an LS into a different chassis. Now due to that, it crosses off a huge check mark on our list, which is budget friendly. Now on top of being budget friendly, they are very powerful. These things all motor, can make upwards of 400, 500 plus horsepower with some nice cams, some intakes and exhaust. Or with forced induction of a supercharger or a turbo, these things can make bonkers power. Now in terms of what I'll be doing with it, unfortunately it will not be reliable enough without completely rebuilding the head. So with those two options out of the way and all the other options, let me show you the only engine I would put in an E36 race car. This is an M52B28 out of a 1996 to 1999 BMW E36 3 Series. Wait, doesn't that mean this is just a stock engine? Well, yes, but let me get to that. So now that we get the valve cover off, let's take a look inside the engine. So in here, obviously we freshly built this motor not too long ago. All the cams are still in really nice shape. Everything's polished, still in good shape. Like I said, there is a little bit of dust and debris and whatnot in here that I will be cleaning out last second before we actually get it in the car. Obviously we're gonna do that off camera. You guys don't wanna watch us dedust an engine. But inside here, I want to talk a little bit about the specs of an engine and what makes this M52 so good compared to something like an LS. So the importance of running an engine that has an overhead cam setup in it, in my instance, is super important because I'll be doing things, again, like drifting, rally racing, where I'll constantly be in high RPMs, high revs, beating the crap out of this head, constantly asking this engine to keep up with the revs I'll be throwing at it. Where something like an LS, for example, that has a push rod and a rocker arm, they are more known to actually float a valve because of the nature of a push rod and rocker arm. Most of the times when they blow up or fail on track, it's actually because of a head failure where they floated a valve and then now they got pistons banging valves, and that is no good. So the beauty of this is that it's simple and it can keep up with the high revs, and that was one of the things that I needed in an engine for my race car. So another cool thing about these BMW motors is they have something called Vanos. Now Vanos is essentially the German VTEC for you Honda kids. It is a VVTi solenoid that advances and retards your intake cam so that you can gain torque down low, and when you're up high in the revs, it evens out your power band a little bit. For these boosted setups, it is really nice to have. Not everybody runs it, but I'm gonna do it because in rally where I need that little bit of extra low end torque, the Vanos will definitely help me. Nice. Oh my god, picking up the whole engine. Shout out Permatex. There's no bolts in this, by the way. This is all just RTV on here. Oh, freaking thing's on there. ASMR. I should be charging you guys double for listening to this sick ASMR stuff. So with the oil pan off, finally, again, shout out Permatex. Inside this engine, there's a few things that I really want to just kind of talk to you guys about that was done on my end that I think will kind of help this engine live and last, hopefully, for more than a season. Multiple seasons. So first thing on the inside here, you can see it's all orange, or it's like a reddish orange. What that is actually a porous, it's like an oily paint kind of, and it sticks and it fills the pores of the block, allowing the oil to actually go from the head of the engine to the bottom end of the engine or the oil pan much easier, because oil will naturally try and fill all the pores. With it being filled already, the oil slides right down and circulates a little bit faster. Helps, again, it's a small thing, but when you have a block fully machined from the machine shop, it is nice to have that just kind of done. It's one more thing you can take. Other thing that is a killer for E36 engines or M52s, M50s, S50, S52s, any of them, is the oil pump. So these oil pumps are great. They do work. You don't really have to upgrade them too much until you get to like higher rev, super high horsepower stuff. The stock oil pumps are actually pretty good. This motor will be right around 400, maybe 500 horsepower. Most of its life will be around 400, so this is more than enough to do that. The only thing is that these oil pump nuts constantly are known for backing off. Now, as you can see, there's some weird kind of wrap that I've got going around it right now. What that actually is a oil pump nut tie down. So what happens is you torque it to spec, and then the opposite direction that the oil pump nut actually would come off, you tie the nut the opposite way so that if the nut ever loosens up and tries to back off, it can't rotate off the shaft because this wire tie is actually limiting it from how much it can rotate. So little safety feature, but it's good. If you're ever out on track, this will save your butt if that nut loosens up. So now that we're inside the bottom end, I just realized I never even talked about what's going on inside this M52. Now for me, I'm keeping the stock crankshaft, the stock rods, and the stock pistons. The reason for that is because these engines can take a ton of abuse. Even boosted, most of the time on E85, these things can safely handle 500, 600 horsepower, completely stock, completely untouched. So for a transmission in the E36, I'm going to be running a ZF 5-speed. Now, one of the big reasons for that is because these things are so light. Obviously, as you can tell, I can hold it just like this. But I don't want to, so let's set it down. So one of the big things with the ZF is that one, it's super light, and it's also super compact. That makes it a very, very common transmission swap for all sorts of builds. There's a ton of influences. You can see it on the screen right now, for example, but a few examples. A few of these guys, they all are running the ZF in their swaps, all sorts of crazy builds. There's adapter plates to put this on a JZ, on an LS, on a VQ, anything. All those motors come with adapter plates on the aftermarket world that you can put this BMW transmission on. Again, because it's so small, it's so compact, and because of how the selector rod works, you can do any sort of chassis mount and put it any distance away. It doesn't matter. They're super versatile and they're super strong. With that being said, I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up a little bit. The poor BMW that I took this off of, unfortunately, had a super duper nasty rear main seal leak. So I'm gonna spend some time cleaning this thing up, and then we'll get it bolted up to the engine and get ready to go in the car. In she goes. With the ZF transmission mounted up to the M52, the last official step to getting this thing in the car is to get ourselves a set of engine and transmission mounts. Now, fortunately for us, again, this is the original engine transmission out of the car, so we don't have to buy or fabricate any sort of crazy engine or transmission mounts. All I had to do was order up a set of upgraded bushings, which I opted for a half solid, half poly, which gives you a little bit of flex, but the actual mounting surface of the subframe and the engine arm is still a super thick piece of aluminum. Other than that, we just got to get the cherry picker, swing this baby in, and get it all bolted down.
So we officially got the M52B28 and the ZF 5-speed installed in the E36. Everything looks great, getting us one step closer to getting this engine running. Now, next up, I'm hoping to actually chop out the back of the car. I want to put the fuel cell in, I want to get all the fuel stuff in, plus all the turbo bits. So the next episode, stay tuned. We're going to try and get everything turbo related actually installed on the engine. And again, that includes cutting out the back, kind of tuning out the rear of the car, getting the fuel cell mounted up. All that is going to be done in the next episode. So subscribe, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I hope you learned something in this episode. If you didn't, I hope you at least found it entertaining. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.